Good morning and welcome to Daybreak Live, where the headlines are not just read but examined, where national conversations are not just echoed but interrogated. I'm Oluwayemi Adelako, and as always, we begin with the stories setting the tone for the day.
All right, Samson Balogu is my name. This morning, former Kaduna State Governor, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, makes a striking claim saying he could be arrested at any time. It's a statement that raises questions about political tension, accountability, and the temperature of opposition politics in Nigeria. What does this signal? Is this a rhetoric, precaution, or a deeper reflection of shifting political alignments in the country?
That's a big question. After that, we'll bring you a detailed weather report helping you plan your movement across major cities, followed by a comprehensive news update, tracking development and governance and the economy to security and international affairs.
Right. It's time for our newspaper headlines and analysis, where we go beyond the bold print to unpack the narrative shaping public opinion. And joining us is Emmanuel Oladele Abiola, public affairs analyst, who will be helping us to decode the angles, implications, and political undertones dominating the front pages this morning.
And for our big story, we confront a question that sits at the intersection of policy and survivor. Minimum wage versus economic reality. Is the current wage structure truly realistic in today's Nigeria? With inflationary pressures, currency fluctuations, and rising living costs, many Nigerians are asking whether wages reflect economic truth or political compromise.
And to examine this critical, is going to be joining us on this show, Temitope Ishola, historian and public affairs analyst. It will help us provide context, historical, structural, and economic balances on this particular topic, and of course will help us understand whether wages reform is overdue or economically unstable.
And as always, we round off with Trend Watch, where we spotlight the conversations shaping public discourse across social and civic spaces.
All right, this is Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. Let's get straight into it this morning.
Definitely.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, Samson.
Always nice to be here on this seat to discuss major national issues. And definitely, the headlines are not slowing down like we always say on this style. Right. And that brings us to the opposition politics in Nigeria. And talking about opposition, we'll talk about Malam Nasir El-Rufai, who came out to say there's a likelihood he will be arrested soon. And the question is, who's going to arrest him? And what exactly could cause this particular narrative? It was on an interview, I think that was with an international TV, and then he made these claims. The question is, most of the times, people make these statements just to make sure that they are in the safer side, especially when they're in the opposition against the ruling government, so that it places you in a position where people would already be aware that something might likely happen to you. But the most important thing also to note is that how are you playing your opposition politics? That's also a very big question. A few days ago, I think that's still this week, I think it was on Monday, Malam Nasir El-Rufai was talking about the Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and then he called him a certain name on TV. In quote, he said he's a scumbag. I mean, that for me shouldn't really have happened, because he is someone that should have known better. And if you could say that to a sitting Senate president, who will say worse to any other person, especially for a president like Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that openly admitted that he's probably the most abused president around the world, and he doesn't really care about what people say about him. So if you are playing opposition politics, I think it should be issue-based opposition. Let's talk about policies. Let's talk about arrangements by the federal government, and not just about the person. So personal attacks should be left out of all of this. And I think that is one thing that this opposition, especially those in the ADC, that have been doing since they formed that coalition.
Right, it's really very sad that we're in this position, especially with the opposition and the politicians and the ruling government. And then I think I read that, he's not in the country as we speak, just like you mentioned. And then he said when he traveled last year in November, according to reports that we've read, a letter was dropped in his residence by the EFCC, more like an invitation letter. So maybe he's just, thinking or adding one, to say that maybe when I get back to the country, they might arrest me. At the end of the day, you don't need to be scared of anything. If you have not done anything that can, indict you in any way, there's no reason to be scared. If at all they invite you, they'll definitely let you go at the end of the day. And then he also mentioned that if he was around, he would have joined the protest, to maybe just, talk about the, we want electronic transmission and all. And then he's been calling, some persons, some funny names, just like you mentioned. And then he also said something that, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will return to the lagoon where it came from. Don't forget that this same person supported this, administration, when they were contesting 2022, 2023. As a matter of fact, he was at the forefront of saying that, okay, APC must come back, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu can do the job. So at the end of the day, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu won the election, he was nominated for minister. At the end of the day, during the screening process, he was screened out. They could not, proceed with him. And then people are saying, most Nigerians are saying, maybe this is the genesis of the problem he has with APC and maybe President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Someone even asked a question. If Malam Nasir El-Rufai eventually became a minister back then, would he be saying what he's saying now?
No, we really cannot tell, and it's so debatable that maybe you'll be saying something else now. So at the end of the day, years have passed after he was screened out and he could not become a minister. And then he came out, at the time after he was screened out to say, I'm not bitter about the fact that I was not able to get the position, the ministerial position. My claim is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not doing well, and this same man that you've known for years, that you campaigned for, and he won the election and you were happy about it. What changed? That's why we say in politics that there are no permanent enemies. Anything can change. El-Rufai can still become very tight or very close friends to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the future. Anything can still happen. So really, when politicians say certain things, you don't really take it, so strong, because anything can change. And one more thing is the fact that in 2012, when Goodluck Jonathan was in power, some media outlets reported that El-Rufai said Jonathan might arrest him. So this is not the first time that we are seeing issues like this. So let's wait for him to come back to the country. I think he should arrive in like maybe 2 days or so, according to reports. And then let's see if he's going to be invited. Because according to him, he's saying arrest. EFCC might want to invite him. So we cannot really tell. So it will depend on when he's back now, and then we get the reports that, okay, he was invited, or he has been detained, or he's just invited. They just invited him and he's been allowed to go. So it depends. He should not be scared.
I think chances are very high that he will be invited, not arrested. And I think while going through the story that broke yesterday, and Malam Nasir El-Rufai also went further to say 4 of the people he worked with while he was governor in Kaduna State have been invited and detained by the EFCC. Now, it means that if you worked with commissioners, worked with senior special advisors, and they've all been invited and detained, I mean, the only thing that's left is to call the boss and say, look, we have arrested this, we have actually detained these people because we found indicting evidences against them which are linked to you. So I think one of the things that we have done successfully in Nigeria that makes everyone looks like they don't know what they are doing is the fact that we rub insult on injury, okay? We tend to join issues that are not even related. Now, you are playing opposition politics, you understand. Do you have issues, pending issues with the EFCC? That's one thing you should find out. And I also want to implore the government not to use the EFCC or any other military or paramilitary agencies to actually spite other people, especially opposition politicians. This is not the time to do it because Nigeria is a volatile state already, and at this time everyone is watching. It might just be that people will be thinking, oh, it is because they are playing opposition against this administration, and that is why some of these agencies are being used as a tool. But the question is, do you have a pending case with the EFCC? If you have a pending case, go and sort it out. We still have so many other governors who left office and are still having to visit the FCC every now and then. If you remember, Yahya Bello is still having an issue with the FCC, even though he's been back and forth, and so many other people too. Even in Plateau State, we've seen some governors that were inducted, and that still does not mean they are not part of the APC. They are still part of the APC. And the question is, even some of them that are facing these issues are members of the APC. So I don't want to believe it's about witch hunting now. I want to believe it's about doing the right thing. And if the FCC finds incriminating evidences against anyone, regardless of what party you belong to, they should be prosecuted. And if Malam Nasir El-Rufai enters Nigeria today and he slides lands, and the FCC deems it fit to invite him to their office, I think it should be done. And then if it feels like well, I don't think I have anything to do. Let there be documents that backs it up, and then that will be it. It will not be witch hunting, but doing the right thing.
Definitely, because even the likes of Tambua, his case is still on now. He has said it quite a number of times that, the APCs were taunting him because he left, the political party. And Rufai also mentioned it that, the APC is trying to withhold whosoever it is that left the party, and even people that are still there to say that, okay, you don't even have the capacity to leave at any point in time. You really cannot.
Look at Malami, former AGF, Attorney General of the Federation. By all indications, you would know he's a member of the APC because he was appointed by the last president, which was late president, former president Muhammadu Buhari. Now he's facing his own, beats and he's dancing to it. And we can say for a fact that he's a member of the party. So I don't want to believe it's about being partisan. Oh, you are a member of ADC, APC, PDP. No, it's about the EFCC getting it done, getting it right, because eventually it boils down to integrity. Do you have the integrity? Did you do anything wrong? It's a question that you must answer.
Definitely. And then speaking about the EFCC, he also mentioned, he talked about the current governor of Kaduna State, that's Upasani. He also mentioned about, as a matter of fact, they are not friends. Right. They are loggerheads. looking at the kind of things that he said about them. There was even a time shortly after he left office, and especially when he left the APC, I think a probe started about the things that he did while he was in office. So he thinks that he's connected. Don't forget that El-Rufai is like a very brilliant politician. He knows how to play certain games, and then he's been in the game for quite a number of time. You cannot begin to compare him with those that are just joining politics or people who don't have a day of politics before they became a minister or a senator or a governor. So at the end of the day, I think he knows more than what Nigerians know. There are certain things that are not so clear to us that he's aware of, and that's why he decided to play a very fair game. It's a poetic statement to say, I might be arrested soon. Why? He didn't really say so much. He just talked about, okay, they dropped a letter for me at home while I was away. I'm coming back to Nigeria. I'm not afraid to face the EFCC. Excellent. If you have not done anything wrong, I mean, you should be free to even visit whatever it is that they want to invite you. Speak to them. At the end of the day, you'll be allowed to leave. We have seen people that EFCC invited, and at the end of the day, they could not find anything against them, and they left. We have also seen people who EFCC has been on their case for long. You spoke about Yahya Bello. We are still going to be on that case if care is not taken, even after election. Don't forget, there was a time Yahya Bello even said that he's interested in contesting for senatorial seat that Natasha is currently occupying, and people are asking for someone who still has issues with the EFCC, and he's saying, I want to contest.
It's the audacity.
It's the audacity. So if care is not taken, it might contest, and then if Natasha is not so strong again, don't be surprised. He might win. He might win that election. So these are the issues. One more thing is, as a matter of fact, we have seen cases whereby the EFCC is also after members of the APC. And we have also seen cases whereby EFCC is after people who are not members of the APC. At the end of the day, I think the EFCC too, in a way, should look for ways to, hasten up certain things. Yes, you need time to make sure that you're correct. You don't want to indict someone who has done nothing. But at the end of the day, especially this Rufai case, this Yahya Bello case, anytime EFCC decides to invite someone, maybe for corruption or maybe they arrest the person, I promise you, check online, check X, for instance, Yahya Bello is always trending. Nigerians are so interested in that case. They want to know the end of that case. Why have you not said anything about this man? One of the representatives of EFCC was on national TV recently, and when he was asked the question, why is it that we have not heard so much about Yahya Bello's case, he said they are still trying to collate the evidences because they don't want to indict someone who has done nothing. Excellent. Nigerians are waiting. At the end of the day, we can't wait forever. In the next 2-3 years, if we can't hear anything, it will keep trending on X.
Absolutely. You see, the challenge is, I think one of the mistakes EFCC made in the past was charging people to court without having, proper evidences, or maybe having too many count charges, and eventually all of them will be struck out of, in court. And I think they are trying to be more careful this time around. If for any reason we are taking anybody to court, even if it is no more than 2 count charges, they must all stick. That is what I think they are doing. I want to believe that is what they are trying to do. And if you look at the current setup, you cannot charge a person twice on the same case. One is being said to be, free from what particular charges you have actually placed on him. You cannot charge him back for the same. You have to get your evidences right, and that is exactly what they've been doing that has actually affected them in the past. Without really having too much evidences, they're already making noise about one particular person, and when they get to court, to be struck out. So I think they are trying to be more careful now. They want to be meticulous. They want to gather more evidences. They want to be sure that this person has been caught red-handed. And that, for me, is a very good approach. And also, if you look at how politics is being played in Nigeria, I think the politicians know how to leverage on the emotional intelligence of Nigerians. They play on it so much that even Nigerians will begin to sympathize or maybe begin to defend people blindly, especially those who actually took their money, siphoned their money and took it abroad. And we've seen it happen a lot of times where it is even the people that will be defending that person. I mean, let the EFCC do their job. The only thing that concerns you is that, is he guilty or not guilty? If he's guilty, let him be charged. If he's not, let him be released. And also, on the part of the government, another thing that should be done is that all these ministries, agencies, parastatals, and the EFCC and other ones should not be used as a tool, political tool, because eventually we are going to come back to this table and discuss it. So they should not be used as a tool. This is not the time to now, because you don't want a particular person to be against your political party in the next election, then you begin to witch hunt them. I mean, you cut their wings so they don't talk too much. And, whether you like it or not, people will still make alliances, regardless of what political party they belong to, or even if they have cases with the EFCC. So it's a place where we can say the government really has to do.
And the one more thing is, even sitting governors sometimes are invited. Right. Take Bala Mohammed, for instance. For example. A few weeks ago, he mentioned during an interview that
one of his commissioners
that they invited his commissioner, and they are even trying to invite him also. But then he has immunity. But regardless, I think according to some laws, some part of the constitution, the EFCC is operating, I think you can still invite a governor. But you might not be able to arrest that person. So it's left to the FCC and, of course, these people. At the end of the day, let's not, politicize all of this matter.
All right, it's a convenient place to leave that one. And let's take weather reports this morning and help you navigate through the day. And we'll be starting with the ancient city of Ibadan. And right now in Ibadan Southwest, weather currently feels like 24 degrees Celsius. Later in the morning, it will rise by 5 notches to 29 degrees Celsius, while being mostly cloudy at 1%. In the afternoon, it will rise further by another 5 notches to 4 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy at 8%. It will drop drastically to 28 degrees Celsius in the evening, partly cloudy at 4%, while overnight, it will drop to 25 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy at 8%. It's a continuous drop from afternoon till evening right here in Ibadan today.
Okay, from Ibadan, let's take you to Lagos. Weather feels like 31 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning is expected to be at 30 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 4%. In the afternoon, 32 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, around 1%. And in the evening, 29 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, around 4%. And overnight, it drops to 28 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 7%. And that's what we have for Lagos this morning.
All right, moving on from Lagos to Ondo. And that is Akure South this morning. Weather in Akure currently feels like 22 degrees Celsius. Later in the morning, it will rise to 27 degrees Celsius, cloudy at 2%. It will rise further to 33 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy at 4% in the afternoon, while in the evening, it will drop to 26 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy at 6%. It will be mostly cloudy overnight, 24 degrees Celsius at 9% right there in Akure South, Ondo State today.
Okay, let's cross over to Owerri Municipal Imo. Weather feels like 24 degrees Celsius this morning, and later in the morning is expected to rise to 29 degrees Celsius, cloudy around 4%. In the afternoon, 33 degrees Celsius, scattered thunderstorms around 42%. That's quite massive. In the evening, 26 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 7%. And overnight, 24 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 9%. And that's what we have for Owerri Municipal this morning.
All right, still in the southeast this morning, we'll take this one from Enugu, in Enugu State, and that is Enugu North. Right now, weather currently feels like 24 degrees Celsius in Enugu. Later in the morning, it will rise to 29 degrees Celsius, while being cloudy at 1%. In the afternoon, it will rise further to 34 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy at 1%, while in the evening, it will drop to 28 degrees Celsius, while being partly cloudy at 3%. Overnight, it will drop to 25 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy at 7% right there in Enugu this morning.
Okay, let's cross over to Calabar Municipal Cross River, weather feels like 23 degrees Celsius. Later in the morning is expected to rise to 29 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 5%. In the afternoon, 32 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 7%. In the evening, it drops to 26 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 10%. And overnight, it drops further to 24 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 15%. And that's what we have for Cross River this morning.
Right, moving on to Port Harcourt, River State, but still with Yemi in the south-south this morning. Weather in the south-south, and that's Port Harcourt, currently feels like 22 degrees Celsius. To rise by 5 notches to 27 degrees Celsius, cloudy at 5%. And of course, it will be almost the same, but at 28 degrees Celsius in the afternoon, with a promise of scattered thunderstorms at 40%, while in the evening it will drop to 23 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, 7%. It will remain partly cloudy overnight, 22 degrees Celsius at 8% right there in Cross River, in Port Harcourt, River State today.
Okay, let's take you to FCT. Abuja, water feels like 24 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning is expected to rise to 29 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 1%. In the afternoon, there's a sharp rise to 35 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 0%. And in the evening, 29 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 0% as well. And overnight, it drops to 25 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 1%. That's what we have for FCT this morning.
All right, joining Yemi in the north central this morning, we'll move straight to the largest state in Nigeria, and that is Suleja, Niger State. Weather in Suleja right now currently feels like 24 degrees Celsius, just like Abuja. And later in the morning, the same as Abuja, to rise to 29 degrees Celsius while being mostly cloudy and at 0%. It will rise to 35 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy at 0% in the afternoon, while it will drop to 28 degrees Celsius in the evening and partly cloudy at 1%. Overnight, it will be 24 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy at 1% right there in Suleja, Niger State today.
Okay, let's take you to Kano Municipal. Weather feels like 18 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning is expected to rise to 27 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 0%. In the afternoon, there's a sharp rise to 35 degrees Celsius, mostly sunny around 0%. And in the evening, it drops to 25 degrees Celsius, clear around 0%. Overnight, it drops further to 19 degrees Celsius, clear around 0%. And that's what we have for Kano this morning.
All right, still in the far north, and I think that is the last we can take on the weather report this morning. Let's talk about Maiduguri in Borno State. Weather in Maiduguri currently feels same as Kano at 18 degrees Celsius as we speak. Later in the morning, it will be a drastic rise to 30 degrees Celsius while being sunny at 0%. It will remain sunny in the afternoon, 37 degrees Celsius at 0%, while it will be partly cloudy in the evening at 25 degrees Celsius, 0%. And overnight, it will drop further to 20 degrees Celsius while being clear at 0% right there in Borno, Maiduguri, Borno State this morning. And that's all we can take on weather report this morning. Do well to link up with us on all socials, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. You can watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. You can also watch us live on our YouTube and Facebook channels. Do well to subscribe and like those channels and drop your comments. We'll definitely take them on this show. It is time to go on a short break. When we return, we'll take the news. We'll be back.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X at Dominion Cast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television. My name is Oluwaimi Adelakun. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has denied report that the federal government ordered it to suspend enforcement of regulations on sachet alcohol and 200 milliliter PET bottle products. In a statement, NAFDAC described the report as false and misleading, stressing that it had received no official communication to alter regulatory actions. The agency's Director General, Professor Mojisola Adie, reaffirmed that NAFDAC operates strictly within its statutory mandate and in line with government policies. The Senate has called for the full and timely implementation of Nigeria's defense budget, warning that delays could undermine effort to tackle insecurity across the country. The call was made during the budget defense session, where the Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, presented the ministry's 2025 performance review and the 2026 budget proposal to the Senate Committee on Defense. Chairman of the committee, Senator Ahmed Lawan, expressed concern over the slow implementation of the 2025 defense budget, noting that postponing defense spending could give criminal elements and insurgents an advantage. The Senate stressed the need to adequately equip the armed forces and security agencies, while the defense minister reassured lawmakers of the ministry's commitment to improving security outcomes nationwide. Reactions have continued to trigger the Senate approval of a proposal allowing the electronic transmission of election results from polling units. While some stakeholders have welcomed the move as a step toward improving transparency and credibility in the electoral process, others remain skeptical, warning that the decision may serve hidden political interest. Taiwo Olariwaju completes the story.
With the 2027 general elections approaching, the Senate's conditional approval of electronic transmission of results is placing pressure on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, amid concerns over infrastructure, preparedness, and the credibility of future polls. Stakeholders are also questioning INEC's electoral record since 1999, raising issues about consistent credibility, possible urban-to-rural voter movement, and the Commission's ability to provide reliable internet connectivity nationwide. A legal practitioner and publicity secretary of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, in Oyo State, Barrister Bimpe Adelowo, says the priority should be to mandate the use of the best available technology, describing the Senate's decision as only a step forward.
So important to understand this in real time that we have to step up our game. We should not by now, why can't we deploy the best technology, even to our remote area? We have to go. We have to ensure that we do. We are so serious about what we want to do. Do we want to go technologically, or we just want to remain where we find ourselves?
The publicity secretary of the All Progressives Congress, APC, in Oyo State, Olawale Shadari, has welcomed the development.
And if you now have some people saying that they are against this, well, that means they are exercising their rights. So they have their right to their own opinion, but the majority will always have their way. So I, like most of Nigerians, am in support of it, and now that has come to stay. So we should all be ready to be part of the people who will make the process work.
While the use of technology could enhance transparency and public confidence, critics insist that implementation must reflect Nigeria's infrastructural realities to avoid operational and legal setbacks. Taiwo Olanrewaju, reporting for Dominion News.
Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Rashidi Adewale Ladoja, has handed over a suspected land grabber to the Department of State Services in Oyo State as part of efforts to curb illegal land acquisition and violence in Ibadan. The palace said the suspect was arrested over a long-running land dispute at a level involving the Akoto and Odufetimi families. The matter was brought before the Olubadan after repeated complaints of encroachment and unlawful claims. Despite mediation efforts by the traditional council, tensions reportedly escalated, leading to violence in which one person was injured and hospitalized. Findings from an independent investigation and records from the Ministry of Lands were said to favor the Ojufetimi family. The Olubadan said the handover to the DSS was to deter further violence and warned that the palace would continue to work with security agencies to address land grabbing and maintain peace in Ibadan. Nigeria has recorded a gradual drop in the prices of some major food items in recent months, ease under pressure on households struggling with high living costs. The improvement has been linked to increased agricultural output, improved supply chains, and policy measures aimed at stabilizing the food sector. Our correspondent, Damilola Daudu, who monitored the situation in Ibadan market, reports that prices of several staple foods have declined compared to previous months.
A walk through some major food markets in Ibadan reveals a shift in price trends, as traders and buyers alike confirm that certain staple items are now more affordable than they were a few months ago. A bag of rice, which previously sold for about 60,000 naira, is priced at 53,000 naira and in some cases even lower, depending on the brand. Beans have also recorded a noticeable drop, with a Congo now selling between 1,002 and 1,005, while Gari also go for about 400 per Congo. Tomato price have declined due to improved supply. A basket that once sold for over 50,000 during the scarcity period is now being sold for between 30,000 and 35,000 depending on the quality. However, a frozen fish seller lamented the high cost of fish, blaming importation challenges and fluctuation charges for the continued increase in price.
The price just increased, not even with 1,000 naira, like 20,000, 15,000. That's the increase we have this January and February.
Yeah, it's too cost. This year, that market is removed because this year, no market.
We thank God about the price, but you know, say this kind of market, we are not concerned with the less year like year by year. We are concerned with the situation of it because of the season.
Despite the reduction in some wholesale prices, traders say they still contend with high transportation costs and inconsistent market levies, which continue to affect their profit margins. Damilola Daudu, reporting for Dominion News.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has approved licensed bureau that change B2C operators to participate in the Nigerian foreign exchange market, allowing each B2C to purchase up to $150,000 weekly. The directive is aimed at improving foreign exchange liquidity in the retail market and meeting the legitimate needs of end users. The move is expected to help narrow the gap between official and parallel market exchange rate, which recently widened by over 90 naira for the first time in 3 years. And in sports this morning, Super Eagles head coach Eric Chell has been linked with the vacant coaching position at French club Olympique Marseille. The job became available after Roberto De Zerbi left the club by mutual consent following Marseille's heavy defeat to Paris Saint-Germain. French journalist Lassana Camara reports that Chell is among the coaches being considered, alongside former Marseille captain Habib Bey, who recently managed Stade Rennes. Chell has attracted interest from several clubs since guiding Nigeria to a third-place finish at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. However, Nigeria Football Federation President Ibrahim Gusau has expressed confidence that Chell will remain with the Super Eagles, noting that the coach still has a year left on his contract and believes strongly in the team's potential. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast and X at Dominion Cast. That's Daybreak News. I'm Oluwayemi Adelakon saying thank you for watching and good morning.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
I welcome you back. Thank you for staying with us this morning. This is Newspaper Headlines and Analysis. I'm Oluwayemi Adela. When I'm not alone in the studio, I have with me Emmanuel Oladele Abiola. He is an entrepreneur and public affairs analyst. Welcome on board.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning to you. Okay, let's start from Vanguard newspaper. I have the banner headline that says U.S. reps propose visa ban on Kwakanso, Miyetti Allah and others. And that headline, I think it's with a lot of writers this morning. As U.S. lawmakers present bill on Christian religious persecution in Nigeria, Sikh terrorist designation for Fulani militias, shocked will respond at appropriate time. Kwakansia, that's coming from Kwakansia movement. Kwakanso caught in web of international hypocrisy blackmail. That is coming from NNPP. Do you think this is a blackmail? Because the United States is saying we have these people on our list and we are going to issue visa ban on them. What do you make of all of this? Is it not, painting Nigeria in a bad light?
We're already painted in a bad light.
Okay, so you are saying what more could happen?
Exactly. So there's this saying, there's this common saying, it's like a slang, say you can't shame the shameless.
Really?
So we're actually shamed, so nothing more. Now, talking about the issue of the ban and the whole new sanction and all, I feel like it's coming at the right time. So U.S. brought, one of their reps is sponsoring a bill, the Nigerian Religious Freedom Accountability Act, stating things that should be done in Nigeria, stating the regulations to be made by the U.S. Department of State and Treasury on things that should be monitored in Nigeria, especially on the issue of religious attacks and all those. Then we've noticed something about terrorism is that it is always funded. But by who? So that's what the U.S. is trying to uncover at this moment. They've noted some key players who are actually stakeholders in Nigerian politics, the likes of Kwankwaso, the likes of Miyetti Allah, herdsmen, whoever. Like I said earlier, it's essential. It comes at the right time. And yes, let them sanction them. Let them bring the force of law behind them, because if not, this will still keep going. It will become a recurring event in Nigeria. And we've always known that stakeholders are the ones behind it. And it's funny that it's the people we know, the likes of Kwankwaso. What newspaper is doing is taking it lightly. They just named Kwankwaso, but Kwankwaso might have donated 200 million naira to terrorism.
Really?
So what newspaper is doing is just taking in the lighter mood, but the real thing is that they are sponsoring these things. It's like you're saying that somebody kidnapped your sister, and the person who kidnapped your sister, his father gave him the money, or the governor of Oyo State gave him the money to kidnap your sister. How will you feel? That's closer to home, right? So that's how it is. These people mentioned are actually the ones behind it. So we should not take it lightly that, what's the US doing? Yeah, if we cannot keep our home, let somebody come in and not take over, but keep it for us.
Okay, Emmanuel, some have argued that now that the U.S. is so involved in this whole matter of terrorism, the situation have worsened. We are seeing more cases of people being kidnapped. What do you make of that?
Yeah, something I've noticed about the U.S. involvement in any system, any state, is that it worsens. Funny, it worsens. U.S. met Somalia, it got worse. U.S. met with Syria, it got worse. U.S. met with Libya or Liberia, it got worse. U.S. met with Iraq, it got worse. So wherever U.S. gets involved in, gets worse, of course. But what I want you to know is that U.S. does not get involved in something unless there's a very important thing they're looking for. So like I think I said on Monday or Tuesday, there's something behind this. And there are so many factors we can state, like the drone refueling, because Niger just sent U.S. away from their U.S. base in Niger, and Niger shares a northern border with us. So the next location for U.S. to move, if they're moving from Niger, is Nigeria.
Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? With this whole U.S. involvement?
No, there is not.
Really?
Once U.S. comes in...
What are we doing then?
See, we've already lost it. I'm not being pessimistic at this moment, but we've been optimistic for decades. Let me say 2 decades. Since I've been mature enough to understand terrorism and this combating of terrorism, we've always been on this issue for a long time. So I don't see us being able to do anything so far. And if the people called the stakeholders in Nigeria are actually financing it, you don't get solution. I think Obasanjo said something one time. He said, if an act of terrorism is not solved within a day, it is state financed. It is state backed. If an act of terrorism is not solved within a day, So, yeah.
There's a lot to talk about. Okay, still looking at Vanguard. Let's take another headline before we cross to another paper this morning. I have this one that says, federal government orders NAFDAC to halt sachet alcohol ban enforcement. But there's another report that we read where NAFDAC said, no, we didn't receive any information of that sort from the federal government to stop the ban on sachet, alcohol product. Is that not serious confusion? I mean, the media is trying to, report certain things, and NAFDAC is coming to say, okay, we didn't receive anything of that sort. Who should Nigerians believe at this point?
At this point, we should believe the presidency. If that's the federal government, if they're saying we should do this. But however, we have to look at the genuineness of the directive. So what NAFDAC is saying is that there was no point in time where the federal government communicated with them to halt it. So the thing is that the federal government might issue a directive, but don't let them say in abeyance, but in open. So the federal government say, we'll be stopping this and this and this. But they might not intentionally or privately communicate with the agency, NAFDAC, to stop it. So federal government might just issue a directive. We are doing this, we are not doing this. But NAFDAC might not have gotten a communique about it. So that might be an issue. So the two might actually be right. Federal government might say, yes, we've done it. But NAFDAC might be saying we've not received anything about it. And that's what NAFDAC is actually saying at this point. So I believe it's miscommunication at this point. But I want to believe the federal government on this.
Okay, let's look forward to how this will play out at the end of the day. Let's cross over to the Punch newspaper. I have a headline that says, Senators clash as my defense and ministry spending. Of course, a lot is connected to this story. I don't know if you saw a video yesterday of Natasha Poti-Duahan. It almost led to something more serious, yesterday, looking at that video. And then there are discussions about the fact that, why is it that we are stalling on this whole, a percent of the budget is affecting a lot of things. We need to tackle insecurity. Can even give these people more room to commit more atrocities. Can you make sense of what is going on?
Yeah, it's a recurring trend in Nigeria. For every bill, appropriation bill, that's the budget, for it to be passed into a law, it has always been a long battle, or since forever. So you will notice that appropriation bills are usually that they start working on it around November, December, because by May the new appropriation bill must have come to be.
Okay.
So every appropriation bill come to place in every May of each year. So that's the financial year for Nigeria. So they start working on because of issues like this. So now this issue, this particular, I think that's what the Ministry of Works and all. So they are defending their budgets, and it is all right if the Senate is actually contesting the budget, because that is what they are for. They are there to challenge the budget. You don't just bring a budget to me and I append on it. That private parastatals do that too. A finance department, wherever, sales department will bring a budget. You ask, okay, why are you spending 100,000 naira for? Why are you spending 200,000 naira for? If you can't defend it, I'm not going to give you 100,000, I'll give you 50,000. So that's what the Senate is doing. Yes, I support it totally, because if these things are not checked, we keep seeing that Nigeria, for example, I think last year we had 19 trillion naira or 16 trillion naira as our appropriation bill budget. Okay. But at the end of the day, it was discovered that there was not enough financing for it. For you to have an appropriation bill, therefore you must already know where you'll be generating your revenue from. So if you see that your revenue might not be enough, let's say you have a 19 trillion naira budget, but you've estimated your revenue to be around 15 trillion, definitely you have to cut away things on the 3 trillion naira remaining. So that's what this is, just scrutiny and proper. But however, sometimes it goes overboard. The Senate overdoes it most of the time. So they try to justify what does not need to be justified. For example, health. You see them cutting bills on health, cutting budget. It should not be. You see. Okay, I read the news recently.
Okay.
Nigerian federal government was supposed to disburse 300 or 250 billion naira for private for universities and hospitals owned by federal governments. Okay. So you see UI, UCH, OAU, OUTCH, LUTS, and University of Lagos. Those are, you get what the analysis.
I do.
So they're supposed to disperse that amount of money for backup generators, to fuel that backup generator in situations where electricity collapses, national grid collapses. Okay. That's a good initiative. But now, it was said that the 250 billion naira was not disbursed last year. So that's why you would have heard last year that there was no electricity supply in all those institutions. Exactly. They brought an initiative to bring the solution. But because of all this, cut this, it affected it. So yes, Senate is right to work on the bill, to challenge it, but sometimes they don't need to challenge, they don't need to justify what needs not to be justified.
Okay, you are very spot on, because something similar happened last year when the ambassadors were being screened. When some senators, said, just bow, take a bow and leave. Some senators said, no, you don't take a bow and leave. We have questions for you. At this point in time, why is it that, looking at the Nigerian Senate, when some senators are trying to do the proper thing, some are trying to just, be a little bit relaxed about the whole situation, while others are trying to take it up, some are trying to bring it down. How do we curtail that, really?
Yeah, that's the human nature for you. If I don't mean to go into anthropology and sociology, that's human nature for you, because even as a society, you live in an area, you live in a space, you don't see people doing what you're doing. If you're driving, you see that usually on roads, if you're living on a terrain that is not yet tarred, you see drivers trying not to pass a path, trying to pass through another path, but you see another driver passing through the same path. The drivers will complain, we need to fill up this road. But some guys, no, you can drive your cars through it. That's human for you. Sometimes you go right, others want to go left. And it is the fact that it's still politics. So usually bills passed in the House, it is that you pass Bill A, I will support your bill. When I'm ready to pass my own bill, even though it's right, even though it's wrong, you have to support me in passing my bill. So it's politics. That's why you see that some people just bring irrational thinking to, why would you think like this? So it's all politics. It's all politics.
That's a lot to talk about, honestly. Still looking at headlines, let's take a look at one more headline before we call it this morning. Let's cross over to Nigerian Tribune. And I have this headline that says, Dangote Refinery's crude distillation unit, a multi-sprit block, 650,000 BPD capacity. A lot of discussions around Dangote, especially recently. I don't know if you heard about the story. There was a time that I was complaining about the cabals and the oil industry. They're trying to sabotage me, but thank God we are seeing reductions here and there. There was a time that there was a reduction of 45 naira. There was a time there was a reduction of 65 naira. And when some persons were jubilating, others were saying, really, what are we celebrating? Don't forget the price was around 2 something before it jumped to 500 when the president said fuel subsidy is gone. At this point in time, really, and I want to link it to the issue surrounding our own refineries. This one is a private owned now. At the end of the day, do you think Nigerians, or let me say the government, should focus more on Dangote Refinery and then sell off all the other refineries that we have? Because some have called for it, actually say, let's sell them off and let's use the money for something else, and let's focus on Dangote and how we can make things easy for Nigerians. Really, what's your take on that?
Yeah, Dangote is doing a great job. And the Nigerian government too is assisting him in ways they can. But however, I would say they are not doing enough, because there was a time where Dangote, like you said, made an outcry saying that the people he's working for are the ones sabotaging him. So the thing is that when you have an oil industry in Nigeria, NNPC usually has a stake in your company automatically. So for example, if your stake is 100%, they have to have 20 to 30% in your company. However, that's just to curb some things, some facts. However, I would not advise the Nigerian government to sell off, because if that is done, capitalism will be on the rise, and and that time, Dangote will capitalize on that. No, there's no competition, no regulation anymore. Therefore, he would be the one to determine what prices are, who gets what, when do you get what you need. So you have issues. What you see Dangote doing, you have petrol price at 700 and something, all these prices, and because there are still things in place checking him. Although he puts the price on his product, but there are still things in place checking him. So what Nigerian government should do is deregulation that don't sell off all your refineries. However, maybe you lease some to him, keep stakes in his company, lease some of your refineries to him to enable his efficiency. And then keep monitoring. Don't sell it off to any other person, because we will notice that sectors that Nigerian government pulls out from, things start going worse. Electricity now, Nigeria's government is pulling out. You see they've sold to IBDC and also, but you see electricity tariffs increasing almost every year, increasing. So once Nigerian government pulls out, it's going to have a long run effect on the populace. So they should not.
Okay. Moving away from that headline, I want to get your opinion on this matter. Nasir El-Rufai released a statement yesterday, and then he said, he might be arrested soon. I want to get your opinion on that, because at the end of the day, if you have done nothing wrong, why should you be afraid of an arrest? Yes, initially, when he traveled outside of the country last year, a letter was dropped in his residence. Maybe it's a letter of invitation, or maybe a letter, we can't really tell. But at the end of the day, why is it that, most politicians, especially the ones that are out of the APC, feel that the ruling government is trying to witch hunt them? I mean, he was governor for 8 years. He left the office in 2023. You could be invited for anything whatsoever. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's a concern to look into, actually. First, it might be his own personal cry just to shield himself. It might be a selfish interest. But also, it's an outcry from a prominent politician in Nigeria who does not throw his words around. Some politicians actually throw their words around, so they say whatever they need to say. But some politicians their words are still with you. So if he's saying that this is likely to happen, according to what he said, I think he said four of his people that worked with him while he was the governor were already arrested and in confines of the security forces. So he was concerned about his own freedom and his own safety. So it's okay. Don't let me say it's okay. We get that. However, like you said, it's always a witch hunt. So it's politics and who is in power. If PDP had been in power, or ADC had been in power, they might likely do the same. If not, although they might not do the same, but likely do something similar just to quench or just to slow down the role of the opposition parties. So what the ruling party is just trying to do is just to slow down the role of the opposition party, which is not proper, to be honest. You do not use security forces to threaten people just because of their political ideologies or affiliations. So yeah, his concerns should be looked into. Because for him to say that I think he spoke with Vanguard or one newspaper like that. That should raise a concern from a prominent politician that way. Yeah.
Okay, so what about politicians that, at the end of the day, when they're arrested, they find strong evidences? Look at the former AJ, for instance. Look at all of those things that were listed. Not just him, even his son, properties linked to him. What do you make of that?
So funny thing is that we use justice as, like you said, witch hunt device in Nigeria. So I know they know everyone who has committed a crime. So if El-Rufai at a point in time had committed a crime, they will know. They know. But what they want to do is that they want to use it to blackmail him at the important time. So for example, look at the AG now. He did something. They've always known that he had been embezzling. But when they needed it, they used it. They played it against him. So justice in Nigeria is a witch hunt device for the ruling or the whoever is in control. So yes, he might have done some things wrong at a point in time. But why not chase him then? Why chase him now? Something is off.
It's linked to maybe politics. But at the end of the day, I like your stance that you are so firm about it. So even though some Nigerians will say, okay, he has nothing to do with that, we are just trying to, even in the FCC, they've come out several times to say, we are just trying to do our job, allow us to do our job. At the end of the day, good luck to Rufai. If you have done nothing wrong, there's nothing to be scared of at the end of the day. A big thanks to you, Emmanuel Abiola Oladele, for being a part of this session this morning. We do hope that next time when we call you, you'll be willing to join us on the segment. Thank you so much. And a big thanks to the audience as well. Thank you for being a part of this segment. We need to take a short break, and when we come back, we move on to Big Story. My name is Oluwayemi Adelakun. Please stay with us.
morning and welcome to the big story on Daybreak Live, right here on Dominion Television. Across Nigeria today, a pressing question dominates public discourse. And of course, it's the current minimum wage realistic in the face of our economic reality. With rising inflation, high food prices, increased transportation costs, and currency instability, many Nigerians say their income no longer meets basic needs, while government insists that ongoing reforms are positioning the country for long-term growth. Workers are asking a more immediate question: can they survive on the present wage structure? Today, the conversation is titled Minimum Wage versus Economic Reality. Is the current wage structure realistic in today's Nigeria? Samson Balogun is my name. And joining us on this particular one is an historian and public affairs analyst, Temitope Ishola, who is going to provide context and clarity. But of course, let's dig deeper. Nigeria is undergoing one of its most significant economic transitions in recent history. And when we talk about stabilization and investment, growth, on paper there are signs of progress. But as government improved, these are more questions we'll be asking this morning. And of course, joining me in the studio is Temitope Ishola. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
There's a lot to talk about. People are asking questions. When we compare what we currently have in terms of provisions of the government, minimum wage, and current reality, which some people consider to be harsh as it stands, how do you compare these two? And can Nigerian workers survive in this kind of situation with this reality?
No, it's going to be a hard one for them to do. And I think looking at the way the minimum wage is being structured, or the current amount being paid as minimum wage, I think just a simple dive in terms of research would show that, for instance, the 70,000 naira minimum wage barely can meet 20% of the needs of an average Nigerian worker. And that's to take into consideration other expenses that such an individual would have to deal with: house rent, feeding, transportation, medical bills, name it. 70,000 can do nothing.
Okay, critics would say 70,000 can do nothing. And of course, they will talk about the hardship. But are these reforms necessary to eradicate the long-standing crisis, especially when it comes to mismanagement and policy failures that we have seen in the history of Nigeria?
Absolutely, absolutely. In the sense that, like, I have come to practice, when issues pop up, there's a need to always try and take a few steps back to observe so as to get the whole picture. I think it's very easy for us to say 70%, 70,000 naira minimum wage is not effective, or to argue for or against. But I think when we look at it from a policy implementation area, look at it from how governance also is, you would always easily tell that there's a lot of things that are missing, that because we have not gotten it right, the argument for and against may always be faulty, or should I use it, may always be biased. Now, why do I say this? For instance now, for anyone arguing against 70,000 naira, would always cite instances of maybe inflation, instances of different stuff. But when you take a step back, you realize that if the government has done their own due diligence behind the scene, ensure that whatever has been budgeted for certain projects has been executed, social welfare packages are in place, and proper structure has been put in place, they will realize that by the time we get to that conversation of what amount should be for minimum wage or not, there will be leeway for people to, or for even the government to add to it. And why is this add also? It's because there's a lack of trust also from the governed, or how would I put it, there's a lack of trust for those being governed in relation to the government in itself. And why? The government or officials tend to say, oh, you know what, please bear with us, there is no money, there is no this, so we can't afford to do this, we can't afford to do that. And citizens are always open to even have that understanding. But at the same lens, you are seeing the same set of individuals buying houses, living extravagant lifestyle. So there's that disconnect and say, okay, you said there's no money, or we don't have the resources to do this. How come you are able to afford this and we down here can't afford this? So that question would always keep popping up, and that's because of the lack of deliberate planning, sincere leadership from the top. If we have all of those in place, I think a lot of things would, at least just based on perception,
okay,
would
we'll
work
come
well.
to that, but then there's this particular one people are talking about. The first assignment the president carried out as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was to remove the fuel subsidy.
Absolutely.
He made it clear. In fact, it was unscripted. He knew what he was coming to say. He jettisoned the script, and of course, he made that pronouncement. Fuel subsidy was gone. And some people will now have questions about why it was removed in the first place. And compared to what we currently have, some people have said that removing fuel subsidy was necessary to actually block leakages. As it stands, have we truly blocked those leakages? And who are those who are bearing the brunt of the removal of fuel subsidy?
I think it just amplifies my last thoughts where I said the government tends to always want the citizens to understand and bear with them, and that the whole discomfort would last for just a few.
The government is cooking. Bear with us.
Just bear with us. In the next 3 months, all of this should be settled. And like I said, citizens would always be interested to wait. But over time, we have seen that waiting does not generate results. And the president came in against all wisdom at that point in time, decided to take away the subsidy. But the truth is that the same issues that have been experienced when the subsidy existed, those same problems are still existing within that sector today. So the question is, and the understanding first, it should be that if you're taking these resources away from this place, because that's the way it was being presented to Nigerians, that this amount in question is going into something negative, that we are taking the resources out and we are going to channel it into somewhere better. Now the question is, the amount that we've stopped paying as subsidy, at least it exists. So what have we done?
Effect on the economy.
Where has that resources gone into that we can say, okay, this amount has gone into maybe health, has gone into security, has gone into this, nothing. And in the same vein, just within that same timeline, the vice president's lodge was renovated for 20 billion naira. In that same vein, Nigeria for the first time had its own presidential yacht. That same vein, they said they were buying a new plane. That same vein, new vehicles were bought for senators and reps. So, and the people, the common man down there, that's there isn't enough, is still being told that bear with us, bear with us, bear with us. So that disconnect is really, really hard. But when we look at it from the economical point of view, I think the government is just a case of failed priorities. If you fund or put enough resources in the hands of the citizens, it's going to circulate around, and most of the fears that they seem to have would most likely diminish.
Let's talk about fuel subsidy regimes. As fuel subsidy regimes in the history of historically, has it helped or harmed Nigeria's economic stability?
So I would want to respond this way, in the sense that there's a reason why there's fuel subsidy in the first place. It's an acknowledgement from government to say that, okay, you know what, maybe this amount and the likes is too much, and we want to bring in our own resources to reduce the price for the citizens to be able to use. So over time, I think what I would say is that over time, governments, because of their lack of sincerity in following through with their policies, the real intentions for which fuel subsidy originated has not been fulfilled. It hasn't been met. It is meant to at least, okay, alleviate the pains of the burden on the citizens. But we've come to see over the last couple of years that it has also created a channel for corruption, where individuals that are not even selling oil are able to steal table stuffs before the government and say, oh, you know what, we have so number of tankers of oil and this, and are collecting free money. So, and that's why they call for, let's take away the first subsidy, because if in the first instance, the subsidy is not now meeting the needs for which it was designed to be, okay, let's take it off. But taking it off also is going to fall back on the citizens, because we would now have to pay more than ordinarily we should. So over time, I think because of lack of proper implementation, we can't really say we've had a success out of it.
Some have asked for wage expansion. But in your opinion, do you think stabilizing the microeconomic environment is more important than wage expansion?
Yes, I think it's something that can be done both ways. It can be phased. It can be a phased approach. So meaning, as you're trying to do the wage expansion, you're at the same time working on expanding the capacity of these guys. And one good way is Nigeria over time, I've seen them pay lip services to the SMEs. These are individuals that are not necessarily even in the bracket to say they want to earn the minimum wage. But if they are allowed to thrive, the economy is going to be boosted, resources will go in, and those individuals are going to become employers of labor. Because there's also the unemployment factor in all of this too. So expand the scope, let them be able to earn, make policies easy, because at the same time, if we're saying we are doing 70,000 minimum wage, how many private entities at the lower cadre can afford to even pay that? Because they themselves are struggling, and this also as a result of policies, strangling businesses, not allowing businesses to really expand, the earning capacity of the citizens. So there's a lot, that's why I said it's not a one-way problem that we can just tile everything to. There are a lot of factors that need to align that allows the whole picture to look very more beautiful. So in this context, I would say that even rather than thinking of a wage expansion or the likes, that why not the country go into a pay-as-you-work payment system. I feel that that is more valuable and more impactful. And what do I mean by that? Rather than work 30 days and expecting to get a pay every 30 days, once in every month.
So Nigeria should go back to the wage system.
So and that way, it will democratize resources also in a way, in the sense that I can be a student and I'm going to work, but I know I'm working maybe 4 hours or 3 hours, and I get paid for that hour. I feel there's more value for my time and resources if that is being implemented. And I believe that if that is in place, because I feel like the big picture or the amount is what is scaring the policy guys, maybe thinking, oh, if this 70, if it's increased to 100, if it's increased to 120, that would be this. But let citizens be earning little by little monthly. And I feel even smaller companies can afford to do that because they are not paying supposedly in bulk. They're able to just say, okay, today maybe it's 1,000 per hour, and that is our agreement. By the time we are done by the time you're done with your 2 hours or 3 hours, the worth of the time you've spent, I pay it to you. And interestingly, if you look at it across board, out of the 200 million population, for instance, I can say roughly about 50 million minimum are among those that live hand to mouth, day in, day out. They don't have the time for
daily income.
They are daily income earners. They wake up in the morning, they go out to look for something to get done, and that's how they get money to come back home and feed. And the truth is, whether you're a civil servant, you're a student, and the likes, no matter how it is being packaged, the truth is you would find yourself living that lifestyle. Because even if you are earning salaries, your children, anyone in the home they leave behind, is still expecting that when you step out, you're coming back home with something. But oftentimes, the resources, and which is the truth, oftentimes, even with your salary, the salary is already gone before you even receive your salary. As soon as it comes, you have settled different bills. How you survive for the next few days.
So let's talk about reforms and the policies you are saying under this administration. Are they more of policies or reforms that are about long-term stability, or they are just short-term fixes?
I think it may not be something that can be answered right away now, because it's over time that we're going to see the impact. For someone like myself, I have little trust in this government. Why? Because if at your third year, we can't see clear-cut results of whatever you have been doing in the past two years, then there's a lot of question marks dancing around. And why is this necessary to ask? Is that government over time have failed, like I keep saying, have failed to show that, okay, they have the interest of the citizens at heart. I feel nowadays it's more of them just postulating and saying, oh, we will do this. Because at year 3 of a 4-year tenure, we shouldn't still be having conversations around promises of what we will do, how we will do. It should be showing us what you have done. That's what will put trust in us to say, okay, you know what? If this person has done this up until this place, we can trust that he can take us.
Now, that takes me to this particular question. Do you think his current policies, are they laying foundation for future sustainable economic growth?
I would say no. And this is my answer simply because I have always against governments that put up statistics that signals progress when the reality on ground is different. So I'm basing my submission on the realities on ground. Are Nigerians better off with money in their pockets since 2023? No. In savings? No. In earning potentials, capacity? No. So that's the way I can judge the government.
But food prices are coming down.
If the food prices are coming down, it also has effects in different regards. For instance now, food prices might appear to come down south. But over there in the north with ravaged insecurity and the likes, farmers are not going to the farm. So automatically food are going to be expensive. We can't also see clear-cut that the government has made investments in agric across board that has lessened it. And you always see that it's fluctuating. Petrol, that's oil, as it were. I think the intervention or the presence of individuals like Dangote and all kind of stabilizes the...
Bringing it to a competitive market.
To a competitive space. If Dangote was not in the equation, we probably would still be buying fuel at an higher rate than what we are doing currently. So this is the way it is. I would not say the government in its entirety has not put up maybe nice policies and the likes. But like I would always say, it's not enough to just design a policy or postulate or give beautiful plans. The most important of it all is the implementation. So if you have good heads that are drawing up policies, then there must be good heads to implement it. And I think that's where the government is missing.
So increasing minimum wage without productivity growth, how bad will it be on the Nigerian economy?
Nigeria, I don't believe there will be anything wrong in it. And why am I saying this? I'm just even looking at it from an individual point of view. I think yesterday or so, I was still thinking of it that there are some certain things I can't buy, or okay, let me put it this way, there are certain things that if I want to get it, I'm always like, oh, isn't this expensive? Isn't this expensive? But the truth is, in another 1 year, 2 years' time, that same amount that I'm saying is too expensive will become the norm that would eventually start getting some product. And I won't say because of that, I won't buy the necessity because of that amount. Same way it appears. I feel like the country, everything would adjust once that amount has gone up. And in truth, what exactly is the amount that this 70,000 naira minimum wage is roughly we have $45 to $50 a month. It's nothing. It's a drop in the ocean for an average Nigerian. We spend way more than the amount in itself. So I don't think there's anything wrong people having that amount that matches up with it. If someone with a 70,000 naira salary minimum wage, I can say it with all confidence that the person may not even be able to, it won't even get to the 10 or the 14. Because by the time you take out your transportation fare, that's if your transport in itself has not even swallowed up the money. Because nowadays, for an average Nigerian, there's a competition between, should I eat 3 square meals or should I forfeit transport? Should I do this? Like one has to go for whichever one you do, and which shouldn't be the case. Will
minimum wage ever be enough for any Nigerian, especially with the current economic situation?
Yeah, I think a progressive growth in minimum wage would. No single amount at the moment can entirely solve the problem of Nigerians or anyone anywhere across the world. I think a progressive growth, and why do I say this? At some point in time in Nigeria, 18,000 was the minimum wage. As at that time, when it was being conceived, even though it's similar to now. So a reasonable extent, it could meet up with some things. Times have changed, economies have grown, a lot of factors have come in. 18,000 is not sustainable. Hence, we are in the conversation of 70.
Having spoken about progressive growth and increment, some have asked questions about wage reviews and how often that should come up. So should wage reviews be attached to productivity rather than political pressure?
Yes, and that's why I'm still always of the opinion.
How do you measure productivity in the Nigerian system?
Which is a hard question, which is hard to figure out in the current setup we have. That's why I'm still of the opinion that we scrap off this system and
the salary system and go back to the wage structure.
Because that way you can clearly know who is working and who is not working. So because the truth also is that, which is an argument government also have, that many civil servants are being paid and are not probably showing up to work because of that job security that, by virtue of the policy and the program, is once you are in the system, you are allowed at least that's
just roll
sustenance.
with the system,
Just roll with the
regardless of if
system,
you appear or not.
whether you appear or not, except when you hear that somebody's coming from Abuja headquarters or this, that people show up. But you can even see that such civil workers also have other things that they are adding up to generate more revenue into their family. So in the real sense of it, if we're also trying to be fair as to, oh, we've paid for services, we expect something in return, it's also a bit hard to measure that. But a wage structure allows for us to know clearly that this is the work on ground that needs to be done. This is the number of individuals that is needed to get this done. Then we can plan on that. And once you come in, you get the job done. We pay you, you go. So I believe that in itself, there will be more seriousness, more productivity across board, because everyone knows that, okay, yeah, I'm going here to earn, I go in there to go get something done, not just sit on the chair while away time and stand up and move. So I believe, from my own view, a wage structure is much better than
so
the current
while
system.
people like you talk about fairness, they talk about reviews, constant reviews of the minimum wage. The government will talk about fiscal responsibility, right? So if wage reviews has to be done, and of course, from the policy standpoint, where is the balance between wage review, increments, and fiscal responsibility on behalf of the government?
A working economy and a working society with a working government, these issues would be very minimal, because all of this is also, just like I said earlier, part of the trust issues. Government has the responsibility on the fiscal end to ensure that they properly budget stuff, they properly ensure that resources are marshaled into the positions and the projects that needs to be executed. But at the same time, there's also the place of the citizens that are going to execute it, because no matter the policy and the ideas of the government, you need human resource, and the human resource are the workers, are the individuals in the country that will get that done. So I believe government needs to sit down internally and be very clear as to what they need to do and empower the other hand, because it's a two-way dimension. And I'm refraining from mentioning costs or amounts in all of this, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's more of a trust deficit issue that we have on ground. There are other countries that don't even have probably up to what we are doing. And the economy is moving well. Their citizens are not comparing themselves with us and say, oh, you know what, pay us what these guys are paying. At the end of the day, it's a case of, oh, this is what is needed to get the country moving forward. You are playing your own part as, say, the manager, giving the vision, the resources. We in our own bit, I say, okay, to get this done and achieve this, we are earning this. And everybody walks along. Nobody wants to see the other person taking advantage of them in this whole system. And I think that's the picture that I seem to get with these conversations anytime it pop up. Fiscal responsibility can be properly balanced if government on its own end also eliminates corruption at its barest minimum. Once you can eliminate corruption at its barest minimum, whatever you have put in place, execute over time. Even if you are not able to give the citizens what they want or the workers what they want in the first year, because of that deliberate growth process, in say 2 years, 3 years, the resources, the revenue that would have come in from following through with what you had set up in the first place would come in, and you have the capacity to now give to the people working and say, okay, you know what, last year maybe it was this amount. In the next 2, 3 years, we are wealthy enough to afford it, because the conversation also is from a place of we don't have the money, we don't have the resources. So which means what is being communicated is if we have the resources and the money to get this done, then there's no problem. We obviously can pay.
So historically, have economic reform periods in other countries as those required sacrifices, just like it's been said in Nigeria?
Yes, everywhere. I think everywhere, every country has had their own fair share, because, and why is this easy to predict? We've seen economies go up, we've seen economies fall. And in the moments where there is a downturn, all cannot go as usual. Everyone has to adjust. Austerity measures kicks in and all of those things, just to get themselves in a place where they can now say, okay, you know what, we are settled, we are balanced, let's push a little further. And I think in the Nigerian home front, the problem is that Nigerian workers over the years cannot really point to a single year where they can say, oh, there was even a breath of fresh air. So every single year they keep hoping that things will get better. Even when the fuel prices were high on a global scale, that we should earn more, it didn't translate to a better lifestyle for the citizens. So it's always quick for government to say when there's no oil or there's a downturn, they're going to say, oh, bear with us, there's no money. But the truth is when there was money, it didn't reflect also in the lives of the citizens. So there's always that question mark. So yeah, if we take away the arguments for and against from the citizens' end, on a government standpoint, they also have not done enough because there are a lot of projects that should be done. There are a lot of things that should be executed. That arguments of no money has limited its execution, has limited the ability to go ahead with it. So the question is, government needs to do a lot. So let's even say they're not paying anyone, or they don't have to bother with minimum wage and all of that. On their own front, there is a need to generate revenue, and the government has not done that. How are we doing with our manufacturing industries? Little or nothing. If we just sat deep with that alone, there's a lot that would have that would happen in the country across board. We'll be able to trade, export well, and all of that. But I think government has failed to do that, and that's why these conversations around minimum wage seem to bear its head every time, because it would have been an alternative if the economies were thriving well. For instance, now, I'll just to mention names, okay, maybe not to mention names, but some of the top companies, manufacturing companies in Nigeria, especially those in the oil sector, those that have the refinery and the likes, you will see their worker complaining about minimum wage structure. Why? Because they are taken care of. So, and that's an option different from a government job. So if the economy is made to thrive well and everybody
providing an enabling
environment, it will reduce that workload on the government. You'll see people opting to say, you know what, I would rather work for a private sector. And truly today, you can see that happening. How many persons can government employ?
Still the private sector,
that takes the bulk of it. And you see that the private sector try their best, even to, without the minimum wage conversations. They try to increase salaries periodically to fit into what they understand as the realities of the economy. So if government, and you realize that it's only the government that fails to do that periodically, that they have to beg them, have to go on strike before they can get that done.
Okay, having studied the progress and of course policies and initiatives of this administration, if these reforms are sustained for 3 to 5 years, what would the economic outlook of Nigeria look like as a country?
Okay, if they are serious with the policies that are being put together and communicated to us, I believe that if it is properly followed through, we should see industry springing up and small, medium enterprises,
small-scale businesses also
being empowered to thrive. And the truth is, these are the missing link in the economy. If the SMEs are funded, supported, be it in policy, tax exclusions, and all of those things, and money resources pumped in to deliberately allow them to go up, which is loans, and that's one of the biggest challenges we have in the country. Etone Elumelu Foundation every year gives about I think $1,000 or $2,000.
$5,000 to some people.
$5,000 to over. I think now it's over almost 10,000 persons yearly across Africa, of which Nigeria takes like 50% of such. That's just an individual. Governments, I've not seen governments have a clear-cut policy or clear-cut program, entrepreneurship program in that regard to say they are supporting.
Grants for small-scale businesses.
So imagine an individual that, okay, you are doing cream, you are doing food, you are doing snacks, you are a logistics company starting small, and you have such resources into it. What it means that by the time such resources come in and you are stabilizing, you will need to hire a secretary, you need to hire a dispatch guy, you need to hire at least 2 persons. And imagine you have invested such resources in 1,000 businesses, for instance. Those businesses have the capacity to hire 1, 2 more persons. And that's more or less providing 2,000 jobs, thereabout. And imagine you scale that across 36 states, for instance. That's about 36,000 jobs that of 70 that you'd have created within a short span. And once they are stabilized, you go again, you take the next batch. And by the time you do such, I believe that over time, it may not look so straightforward at the beginning, but if it is properly looked into, assessed, when there is a mistake, you learn about it, you correct that part, and that deliberateness to say that, okay, we want the system to. I believe we've not gone to the point where there's that vision, clear vision, and the deliberate way to say we want whatever programs we've put in place to work. I feel it's more of just, let it just be in the newspaper, let people say that we have done that.
Shortly before we go, what role is corruption playing in all of this?
A very big role. a very big role, because I believe that if corruption is eliminated, a lot of things would go well. And a good example, even the big fear in all of this that we say, oh, let's even set up a entrepreneurship program and the likes. With the Nigeria of today, if you release such funds, somebody will probably carry 50% of it and run away with it and consider it as his own share of the national cake. And Evans will not fall. No punishment to be, and if at all a punishment is given, they'll probably say you should pay 10,000 naira fine or 100,000 naira fine compared to that. So corruption in all its fare, it's basically giving us that challenge, it's giving us that problem. And I believe that if corruption is eliminated, resources that are budgeted can be implemented. Resources that are budgeted would be used for the right items that it needs to be done. And it's going to translate heavily into the lives of an average citizen, and they'll be able to get results from it. The bottom line of it for average Nigerian is just basically saying, you know what, we want results, we want things to go better. I keep saying it, I keep arguing that Nigerians generally do not have problems with the government. As long as they can eat, drink, have a little bit of fun, relax, are safe, they don't really care if you're even taking the millions or the billions up there. Because an average Nigerian has been conditioned into the survival mode, setup mode. So as long as they have the basics, they really do not have they don't even care. All this conversation of how many percent GDP, inflation, this.
Some no longer have interest in the newspapers.
Exactly. So they just want to be able to wake up and know that, okay, they have a place they can get resources when they step out. Shelter, food, they can afford it. Once that is in place, they don't, sadly, most Nigerians don't aspire for much. They don't. So just give them that basic and they'll be all right. And that little is where I have issues with the government still not being able to provide that barest minimum for these individuals. And that's why there's a lot of issues popping up, conversations popping up. And I hope that they get it right.
All right. Thank you, Temitope Shola, for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been an eye-opening session with you. Right, as you said earlier, Nigerians are not asking for too much. A minimum wage is not just an economic figure. It represents dignity, productivity, and fairness. As Nigeria pursues reform, the true test of growth will be how it impacts the lives of ordinary citizens. And a big thank you to Temitope Shola for his insights and these critical issues this morning. Samson Balogun is my name, and this has been the big story on Daybreak Live on Dominion Television Ibadan. Up next is Trend Watch. The show is still Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. It is time for Trend Watch this Monday, where we track what's trending and what's buzzing on social media platforms. And Oluwayemi Adilaku is back in the studio with me.
I'm glad to be back. Well done in that conversation. Okay, what we have this morning is saying Natasha, a committee chairman, clash over Kuta MOUs. The senator representing Kogi Central yesterday engaged in a heated exchange of words with the chairman of the Senate Committee on Mines and Steel Development, Senator Patrick Ndubueze, after nearly 4 hours of deliberation. And then the altercation became very intense at some point. As a matter of fact, the development prompted the chairman to move to draw the session to a close, saying he has spoken to at length and that the committee needed to wrap up proceedings. So it happened that, while she was trying to ask more questions, the chairman said, okay, I've respected you enough, you've had your time to ask your questions, and then I want to close this. And Natasha was saying, no, don't do that. I have one more question. I have something else to say that can help us, achieve what we want to achieve on this particular matter. And then she mentioned something. She said, whether or not I've spoken about this issue before, whether I've asked a question before, it doesn't matter. I still want to ask me one more question. But then the chairman said, no, that's the end. I have to close this. And then at some point she stood up. She said, okay, if you don't want me to talk, she carried her file and then she stood up. And so some persons are saying, okay, is this another angle to maybe, do something to her, or just make her feel uncomfortable again? While some are saying this is too much. At the end of the day, the session was closed. She should leave it at that. What do you make of this? Because Nigerians are divided on this matter. Looking at the fact that this is not the first time that Natasha will be having issues with maybe one person, one senator. Remember, it was with Apabio. There was even another time with another senator. What do you make of this that is going on?
Well, yeah. I think Natasha should slow down a little bit. Respect is earned, not hijacked or taken. And one thing I know, let me just liken this to association meetings. Everyone is given the opportunity to talk, and the moment the chairman talks, the meeting ends. And that has always been, the procedure in so many places, especially even on the floor of the House. If the Senate President, gives his 2 cents on a particular discussion, that means they are bringing it to a close. And the chairman of that committee, per se, was not around. And Patrick Ndubueze had to stand in for the chairman of the committee. And everyone on that seat were given the opportunity to talk when they requested for a chance to talk, including Senator Natasha Puti-Uduaghan. And by the time the chairman on the day wanted to wrap up the whole proceedings, she said, oh, I have something else to say. And the chairman said, look, you had your time. I will give you the needed time. What you requested for, they gave you. Nobody stopped you until you were ready to stop. And there is no room for anyone to talk because you have brought this to a close. And then she stretched her hand forward like she wanted to, drag the gavel with the chairman of the day. And he had to move the stuff to the other side, and then eventually he brought the meeting to a close. And she was livid. She made a little bit of created this scene, but the truth, in the real sense of it, I think Natasha got the sympathy of Nigerians who supported her at that time because they felt she was cheated. Now it is more or less like she's riding on that to actually create more scenes that are absolutely unnecessary. At that sitting, I might be wrong, but I don't think anything was wrong. There was no injustice served against her on that seat. She got the opportunity. If she had not spoken before, and then she requested for time to actually get her opinions out there, and the chairman said no, you cannot talk, that would be a different ball game. But everyone on that seat, every committee member, including the minister, already had their take. They gave their 2 cents on what should be done and what should not be done and how to go about it, until they wanted to draw it to a close, a meeting that has been held for 4 hours, and then everyone says, look, I think we have had enough, let's go. If you are going to have another meeting, maybe some other time. And then she said she wants to talk. And the chairman eventually, whether she likes it or not, brought the meeting to a close. But the truth is, I think she should slow down a little bit. Respect on the floor of the House is earned. It depends on the kind of bills you bring to the floor of the House, your contributions to pressing issues, pressing matters on the floor of the House, and how you carry yourself. These are the ways you earn respect on the floor. And I don't think, trying to drag issues, making it look like, oh, you are being witch-hunted is the best way to go about it. For me, I think you should slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I think she's become more popular ever since that issue.
And she's trying to ride on that, making other people look like they are trying to, trample upon what you call freedom to speak on the floor of the House, making her look small. I think that is the kind of image she's trying to, preach out there and, of course, paint out there. But it doesn't seem so to me, because yesterday was clear. Everyone had spoken. The chairman was even saying, you had the opportunity. You could have just listed what you wanted to say and then put it out at the same time. But then we are about to close, and we all agreed that, oh, we are going to close. And aside from Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, no one else on that seat said, oh, let's extend this meeting for another 1 hour or maybe another 30 minutes, or, oh, I still have something else to say. It was just that, meaning that for me, I think it was deliberate to create an issue. That's what I feel.
Okay, so you have a very good point, and I was just saying that she's become very popular because of that issue that happened with her papi, and then even months back she also had an issue at the airport where she said they don't want her to travel. Her husband was allowed to just proceed in few minutes actually, but she was delayed for over 20 minutes, and then she said something. She said that they've only met 3 times recently, according to Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, and they only meet at budget presentations. So she's saying that, she just wants to ensure that, the right things are being put, in place. But at the end of the day, there are right way to do things. Actually, when you want to achieve something good, you have to do it the right way. Because I mean, I'm just bothered about our person. She has a big personality. At the end of the day, she's going to be done with her tenure, whether she wants to contest again or not. You might even want to contest for something else later in the future. So these things will count, because I don't understand what is going on, amongst the senators. That every now and then you see videos circulating online of maybe one heated argument, and people are insulting each other. It doesn't really portray us well. There are better ways to do things. Actually, I mean, these people are they are not
even
young
Dave
people.
also had a face off with Senator Adams Oshiomhole.
They are not young,
and it was like, oh, you cannot talk to me in certain manner. You see, it seems like all the meetings that were held yesterday, had their K-legs one way or the other, and that also includes.
It doesn't really portray us well.
Let's take 1 or 2
comments
before we go. I think Chief Quinn says, right there, says male-dominated boards claim to represent everyone but prioritize men's interest. How can leadership reflect the diversity of the society it serves? Okay.
Another comment, Mommy is saying she's always in the news for the wrong reasons. Abi, they are deliberately picking on her. And then Chief and Queen is saying this government has treated her unfairly over time. Well, you might take the last one.
Well, everyone has an opinion.
Yeah,
and of course, Boni Project says distasteful to watch and disrespectful to Honorable Natasha. Well, everyone has the right to their opinions, and that's actually fine. But it's a convenient place to leave it on this show. This morning, say thank you for being a part of the show so far, for making us your companion. Do well to link up with us again tomorrow, same time, same station. But there's going to be Daybreak Live Extra, the Owambe edition. Sam Shebalogo is my name. If you say something, say something. Keep being good out there. Keep being safe. Bye for now.
All right, thank you for being a part of the show. Do well to join us tomorrow for another exciting edition. My name is Oluwayemi Adelakon. Please stay safe.